Blender. It's one of the best places to make 3D models and renders of things. With all of its versatility, Blender is great for most people, and it would be great for me as well, except for one slight issue. I've never used Blender or really any other 3D modeling software. The only modeling stuff that I've ever done, really, is just making a few weapons. Yeah, we don't talk about that. Anyways, these past 4 days, I partook in a Blender challenge to try and learn Blender so I could make cool stuff like this. Yeah, let me explain. So, I was browsing the internet one day when I came across this guy who was hosting this big Blender challenge. I had to create something from scratch around the theme of Colossal, so basically just something big. I thought that sounded really fun, so I mean, why not? Now I have to tell you, I have no Blender or any kind of modeling experience, but a challenge is a challenge, and I must accept. Well, actually I don't, but you know. Looking back at the challenge announcement, I realized I only had 4 days to make this entire thing, and I still don't even know how to use Blender, so let's get started. The first task was I actually needed to learn Blender, and I did the only smart thing I could really think of, and I just searched it up on YouTube, because that's what everyone does, I guess. I spent a while searching, way more than I'd like to admit, but I managed to find this great tutorial by Joey Carlino.
So you've decided to start learning.
It went over the basics, and after a bit of time, I managed to make this simple floating island thing. And I did it all on my own, which I thought was pretty cool. These islands consist of a few flowers, a simple house, 2 kinds of trees, because 1 is not enough, and a fence, which now that I look at them again are just a bunch of unconnected stakes, but oh well. Anyways, I also learned how to make a dance party. Don't ask me how I did that, because I don't even know. Well, that's basically all I did for day 1, so day 2 I guess? Today, on day 2, I wanted to expand my Blender skill set as I doubt I could make anything colossal using only what I already know, which only consists of like 2 things, coloring and starting dance parties. I swear I won't use that clip anymore, probably. So, I decided to make a floating island a bit better by adding a waterfall. I also added this giant ocean thing, so now my floating islands are quite literally floating, just not in midair like I had originally planned, but now on the water, so yeah, nice. Now, to be honest, it looked a lot better without it, but you know, since I added it, you know, no need to delete it. Definitely not because I'm too lazy to make anything else. Then, after all that, I rendered it, and it turned out like this. I feel like it could have looked a lot worse for only 1.5 days, but it could also look a lot better. Bruh. And also, for those wondering what engine I used to render it, I used Eevee instead of Cycles. I didn't really know the difference, so I just used the first one, and Eevee's a Pokemon, so, eh. With that out of the way, it was time to start the challenge of making something colossal. I wanted to make something summer themed, as it was almost summertime, so my first idea was to make a giant or colossal beach ball being thrown at someone. But I quickly decided against it when I couldn't even get past the issue of texturing it, which to my very, very small brain just means coloring it, which I guess are the same thing, I think. I ended up just searching up Colossal on the internet, and I found this cool image of a dwarf with a giant hammer. I don't know why, but I'm a sucker for big fantasy hammers. I don't know why, I just do. Don't judge. But anyways, I decided to make a big giant hammer, because that fits into the Colossal theme, right? Okay, I really rolled with this idea because I couldn't think of anything else to do instead, and I just wanted to get something done, so yeah, we're making a big hammer. Using what I already know about editing and texturing, or coloring, I guess, I managed to make this cool looking hammer. I know you're probably so impressed. Okay, not really, but for just starting out, it's pretty good, right? No? Alright, fair enough. My initial thoughts were, in making this hammer, was to give it a bit of glowiness to it. As seen in most of these fantasy hammer images right here. See, right there? It's glowing. I thought it'd be really cool, but when I tried doing that, it failed miserably. Just look at it, it just, no, that looks bad, no, just delete that. The next step would be to making the character, who would actually be holding the hammer, because, I mean, there's no point in just making a giant hammer, especially because it only took me like half a day. I think I'll call it a night though, because I'm getting kind of tired. So, yeah, day 3. Get it. Alright, so before we move on to day 3, I wanted to talk about my Discord server. Whether you're a modeler or a game developer, or really anything to do with computer stuff, like computer art, you'll find this server to be, probably to your liking. Yeah, join it right now. Also subscribe. So yeah, with that out of the way, move on to day 3. Alright, so today I would be making the character, who would actually be holding the hammer. I wanted the character to be kind of small to be in contrast with a large hammer and make it really stand out just that little bit more, at least in theory. Now, when you see an image of pretty much anyone with an overly large hammer like this, they look as if they're jumping towards the camera about to hit it, right? Okay, so that probably made absolutely no sense because I'm terrible at explaining things, but here's a few reference images to what I'm thinking about. My idea was to add these icospheres, don't know why they're called that, but we'll roll with it. Duplicating and moving them to make it look roughly about what the character would look like. I would then sculpt it to make it actually look good. Long story short, it looked absolutely horrendous. This looks like one of the Play-Doh figures I made when I was like 6 years old, although I ate the Play-Doh, but I'm not gonna eat this. But yeah, this was probably even worse than that hammer coloring fiasco. I instead did the responsible thing and looked it up on YouTube and found this tutorial. It said to use these squares and then to use a subdivision surface modifier. That sounded really smart actually. Then I shaded smooth and that was that. It was honestly really, really simple, and thank you to the tutorial guy who I did not write down the script, so silly me. I modeled the character using this little trick, moving the parts around until I got something that looked somewhat decent. Then, when I was done, I did encounter a slight issue in which when I scaled a piece of geometry, the rest of the faces moved with it. Don't really know why this was happening, but I managed to fix it by just creating a new Blender thing entirely, and it worked fine in there, so yeah. I eventually finished the basic model and imported the giant hammer, and it looked pretty good. Now it was time to color, or texture, whatever you want to call it. I might change it later, but for now, I think this will be pretty good. Now, I probably need to give this guy some hair, but because I'm too lazy and don't really want to learn how to do it, I just gave him an afro, so now we have Bill Gates, or not Bill Gates, what's the afro guy? I don't know. Painter, whoever the painter's name is, Noise. So the last thing I did today was add a background to the render, and to make it not just boring, so yeah, I made it purple because I like purple, so yeah, nice. Alright. I was quite happy with how the render turned out, but the theme was colossal, and the hammer just did not scream colossal to me, so I figured I would add a big monster or something to the left of the character, because right now it was pretty empty. So, yeah. Anyways, that's a problem for future Scroof, because present Scroof needs to go to sleep. Day 4. Let's get it. Alright, so today is the day that I'm going to be making the monster, or something like that. I'm gonna be honest, I had no idea what I was gonna make, but we'll figure it out, I guess. The first thing I did was actually brainstorm ideas. I thought of the weirdest things, I don't really know why, but I was so close to making a giant guinea pig for some reason. I don't know how that got into my head, but yeah, we're not making a giant guinea pig. I don't even know why I thought of that, or yeah. But anyway, some of my other thoughts were to make a stereotypical giant golem guy, a stereotypical monster, and an iceberg. Yes, I also wanted to make an iceberg. I don't know why, don't judge. I finally settled on something that I personally thought I could make and it would still be kind of cool. I settled on a sea monster. I chose this because I already knew how to make the ocean from a previous tutorial and my original floating island render thing, which looks kind of bad. But anyways, I was really kind of winging it with this one. I was just kind of going with the flow, as some people say, as I didn't really have any kind of concept art because I forgot to make it and I really didn't even know what I was doing. So yeah, when I finished, it looked a lot like Cthulhu because I added these like giant disgusting tentacle beard things, which he's known for, I guess. But yeah, I really did not like these colors as they were looking just way too bright for a stormy sea. So I tried creating a custom texture using a UV mapping whatnot. Not really sure what that is, but I watched a tutorial, so it was all good. It didn't come out quite as rustic as I would have liked, and it looked more like military camo than a sea monster, but oh well. I messed around a bit with the lighting and came up with this. Now I'm going to be completely real with you. I didn't like it at all. The lighting looked off, the character, you could barely tell he was trying to jump onto the monster to smack it in the head. He just looked lost with the sea and the big monster, but time was up, so yeah, that's the end of the video. Subscribe, goodbye.